Thank you, Olive. I have another question, but to keep my word, I'll pass on the mic and save my question towards the end.
It's Jack Heller. Good seeing you. I have a several-part question. Let's assume that the new president goes to Brussels and that he, in fact, is also in contact with the U.S. ambassador. What message would you like the European governments to give him, and what message would you like the U.S. government to give him that will be consistent with your objectives, the objectives of your organizations? And are your organizations going to try to make sure that the Europeans and the United States government asks what you view to be the right questions of Mr. Yanukovych? Thank you.
The answer is obviously yes. I am part of my job is that I am elected as the chairman of the Civil Society Experts Council on Ukraine EU elections, and I am using to maximum this capacity to communicate with Brussels Civil Society Forum, which is part of Eastern Partnership. We are doing regular briefings for foreign press in Ukraine. I am regularly meeting prominent Western and American diplomats, and obviously what we are discussing nowadays is not so much what kind of questions Yanukovych has to address, but what we try to say that Ukraine is not only politicians we are electing, but Ukraine means very different civil society, because this personified perception of my country actually did a lot of harm to Ukraine's image. I am talking specifically, and it's a painful experience for me, clearly understanding how important for foreign policy is who represents you and how you're being represented when Ukraine on major Western European newspapers, I guess also American, during last 2 years was mostly mentioned as a kind of awkward relationship between Prime Minister and President. Public scandals, instability, mutual accusations, and therefore at some point we have noticed that lots of people in European countries have been associating Ukraine with names of Viktor Yushchenko and Yulia Tymoshenko, President and Prime Minister, who are always involved into scandals. Then they've been mentioning other politicians who are not much better, and therefore country was presented as something of very shortlisted politically. And when I organized another program on the eve of Bucharest NATO summit, which we call Dialogue with European Capitals. I have invited half a dozen of prominent Ukrainian NGO leaders, English-speaking, and experts in the field of security and international relations. And they visited a few times European capitals: Berlin, Paris, Stockholm, London, other European countries. And I've been positively surprised how we've been meeting there not only politicians, we've been meeting members of parliament, of government, of opposition, and our visit was finished by 2 hours presentation, Q&A of Ukraine. As I've seen specifically in Paris, I remember how shocked lots of experts have been that Ukraine is very different from what they see. It's not only diplomats who represent the country, which are mostly passive. It's not only what they read in newspaper, but it's very different approach, very different generation, very different people, European-minded, open, discussing issues which they've been never hearing for. Therefore, I believe that this is very important for me, in this case, to demonstrate to the rest of the world that Ukrainian civil society is really much stronger, much organized, much more influential, and Ukrainian people are going to prove again that they will defend Orange Revolution results, the freedoms which they are not prepared to sacrifice. If to summarize, I've been discussing with one top French diplomat what might be done on the part of Ukrainian society and rest of the world. So, in summary, we came to conclusion that we should not elect corrupted politicians, but West should not finance and support corruptive governments. It's like the job on two hands. Really, we try to elect better from what we have, and the choice was limited. But we are more and more demanding from our politicians to change, to open up. We are forcing them actually to communicate and answer questions which they don't like to. And this forum with newly elected president is just another testimony for this. People are getting more and more confident, but we also are urging the world, because now Yanukovych would be visiting many capitals. I've been talking with him many hours myself. I know all his foreign policy advisors. I know he will be sending the right messages. What is very important, that he is getting the same message everywhere, that he has to be responsible. Let's not pretend, because I'm hearing quite often from many Ukrainians, that how comes that West is now so kind of tired and is not prepared to react to any probably misfortunes Yanukovych can afford himself to do, because he is getting credit of confidence, and he might be more convenient for West because he can deliver something. We are not prepared for this kind of approach. We strongly believe that there are certain bases, and those bases are mostly democracy, freedoms, something which we have actually struggling for during Orange Revolution. We are not prepared to swap that for any kind of economic preferences or behind the closed doors deals. We are much more proactive in demanding open and public statements on the part of the president of what he's going to achieve. Our press, though our press is now not so much censored, but it is, let's say, financially influenced by many politicians during campaign, and by many owners are dependent on or are subject to different influences. But still we have diversified press, and in Ukraine you can get news. It's very difficult to hide anything. Therefore we rely on this approach that we would be trying to make corruption number one issue domestically. But we would like, and I'm specifically talking to American side, because I was very much surprised how this Millennium Program was working during previous Yanukovych government, when the whole country was laughing that money which were meant to fight corruption was actually going directly to most corrupted ministers in my government, and therefore this must be avoided. Let's not pretend we are doing something. Let's be serious about principles here, because jointly we can have a success. We clearly understand that major burden is on our shoulders, but we would like the West to be more, let's say, less diplomatic and more clear on certain basic principles.
Thank you.